of reactionary whiteness, they realized that they had to tap into their African identity and find a solution to the problem. Collectively. But yet now, we are faced with a crisis of global proportions of reactionary whiteness. Yet there is no clarion call in the black diaspora anywhere being brought to unite around intellectual formations that we have had been settled for hundreds of years, over 100 years. Pan-Africanism, there's more discourse, scholarship, and writing on Pan-Africanism in black thought than you can find on almost anything. This is not a new subject. You can go from Garvey, you can go from Malcolm, you can go to the Bandung Conference, you can go to Kwame Nkrumah, you can go to Jomo Kenyatta, you can go to Leopold Senghor, you can go, you can go to Dessalines. You can go, there is the concept of African collective movement to create a barrier to white reactionary hatred is not a new concept. Yet because in the face of 30 years of neoliberalism, and this term, I take issue with this term, not because I think it is wrong for what it describes. It is wrong because the term confuses what it is. I use a simplified way to explain it for people. Neoliberalism, frankly, is a fancy word for privatization. Some scholars will say that neoliberalism is rendering everything to the market. But what is the market? It's a private enterprise. Neoliberalism is when your government says that we don't want to pay for your public schools anymore. We're going to have corporate charter schools run everything. We don't want to pay for your waterworks. We're going to have corporations do that. You still pay taxes, but an entity that has no fiduciary duty to you. Fiduciary, I'm a lawyer, excuse me, basically means a bonded responsibility to you based on your interaction with that entity. So these private actors have no fiduciary responsibility to you as a citizen, but your government is now foisting over all of its responsibility to them to cut some pennies off, while you still pay taxes. This neoliberal order is the poison that has been spread throughout the world pretty much for the last 40 years, but it has been heightened in the last 25 or so. So the reaction that has caused in the psyche and the consciousness of our brothers and sisters in the diaspora is that get paid more money, no problems, let's make it happen. I'm about, it's all about the Benjamins. Well, I would like someone to show me a time when black capitalism did anything but basically enlighten and empower a small number of black people and ground the rest of black people to dust. Because I don't know what's more empowering about me having to go to Starbucks when Magic Johnson is my boss or some European when I'm still not getting paid more than $15 an hour and I have no health care. Come on now. Please tell me how that uplifts my Black History Month fantasies. So the question becomes, in the face of this economic onslaught, that literally, and this is a fact, and I'm not going to go into the controversy of talking about the last administration. I know many of us have emotional contacts and ties and all that stuff. Those brothers who know me on social media know that I am infamous for my particular opinions on that particular subject, but I will spare us at this moment from delving too deeply into that.
Just this moment, bro.
But I will
want to hear some of that.
And I will give you objective facts. These are objective facts, and I will not name the administration. There has been at no time in the history of the world a greater transfer of wealth to the 1% in the shortest amount of time in the history of the world than this happened in America in the last 8 years, and that's a fact. In the history of humanity, there's never been more wealth went from the bottom to the top in that short amount of time ever in the history of humankind. That's a fact. It got so bad. You had white folks strung out on heroin. Think about that. Donald Trump with all his bluster and bluff, he's 65 to 70% full of crap. But let's make it clear. There were some white people who were suffering in this country, man. I went to law school in New England. I know what these folks are going through up there. Johnny's on heroin, Janie's an alcoholic, Bob can't find a job at the factory, Steve blew his brains out. This is for real. Chris Hedges is a very well-known white radical left intellectual. I appreciate his work very much. When you see him talk, he comes off like one of these kind of Ivy League educated white boys and whatnot. But he has good content. And he talks about what happens when he goes back home to his family. And he's like, my whole family's strung out on heroin and drugs. They're all jacked up. This is not a brother from the hood. This is not Jamal from Marcy Projects. This is like an elite, Ivy League type white boy who's like, my whole neighborhood basically all the people in them growing up are strung out, jacked up. So understand the psychology of white supremacy that, by the way, I would argue that the white poor are the greatest, of white people, they're the greatest victims of. Because what white supremacy does, it plays a very dangerous trick. It denies them the reality that the same people who are screwing us are screwing them. You see? And what happens when people, and the reason why I have this reactionary rise, why you have the Trumps, the Marie Le Pens, why you have the Nigel Farages, these are all these figures that are rising all over the world, is because instead of telling these poor white folk that, yeah, basically, it's the same system we use to screw the niggas, we use it for you too. But we don't want to tell you that. They're going to tell them, your whiteness is not being valued anymore. How could you, a child of Europe, allow yourself to fall so low? Who did this to you? The globalists, the Europeans. It was capitalism, period. That's all it was. It was capitalism. But they won't say that because they want to keep the carnage going and get paid. So the question now becomes, for those of us who are quite familiar with being at the bottom of that barrel when it comes to that system, now that they are uniting around their whiteness, how are we going to react? Are we going to react like Martin Delaney? Or are we going to say, no, listen, man, Trump is good, man. He's going to hook us up. We're going to get a new deal 2.0. Black folk are going to be good. Do you think Steve Bannon cares that much about your black ass? Really? Do you really believe that? You think because he's willing to ship the Mexican back home in trucks, he's not going to ship you somewhere too? It might not be to another country, but they got cells with your name on it waiting for you. And let's make this clear. I'm not intellectually dishonest. I understand that our African American brothers and sisters, they have a reason to have beef with immigration. Listen, man, the cat is 19, he comes out to slam, he wants to get a job, working as a construction worker, he goes there, and every cat out there is like, "Para español, you speak Spanish? You speak Spanish?" He's like, "Nah, man, I just came out the cell block, man, I need to get some work." He's like, "No, papi, can't help you." After a while, he's going to get pissed off. After a while, he's going to get pissed off. I'm not bold enough to say that he doesn't have legitimacy to be pissed off. But what I'm saying is that instead of me making that poor Mexican the enemy, I want to look at who is the system, who's running the game that's screwing the Mexican over, who's going to get below minimum wage, and screwing the brother over who can't get a job. don't want to make it seem that I am not acknowledging that our brothers and sisters here have a reason to have beef. They have legitimate reason to have beef. Listen, man, you come from a community where every single aspect of the ruling class has done to ground you to powder for over 300 years, has rendered your community almost destroyed. You voted 96% for a black president for two terms. You got nothing. And now you're seeing people come from foreign companies taking off, leaving you behind. You don't have a right to be pissed. You damn right you have a right to be pissed. But who are you going to be pissed at? Who are you going to be pissed at? I think the larger question has to be asked is, who's the one who's counting the change at the end of the day? That's the question. That's the person you need to be pissed at. Who's cutting the checks and keeping the money? But it becomes so easy for us, and all of us, to get into this tribalism. And I think I put this on social media the other day, how in the age of Trump, black people globally are turning to tribalism. I'm Nigerian. I don't have a problem with this African American. What is wrong with this Akata man? These Akata. I understand these people. What is wrong with them? I'm Jimmy, yeah, brethren, man. The black folk here, man, they lose their mind. You don't understand what the problem is with them, brethren. And what you said when you was out, I don't know what's wrong with these folk. So we come here with our BS from our countries. And we look at these brothers and sisters like, I don't know what's wrong with these folk. To the point that some of our mothers said, don't bring no black American girl home to my house, huh? Black American. That's how they say it. This is real talk, man. This is real talk. How many of us come here and take the time and read the history of these people here to try to understand the sophisticated nature to which the ruling class, and listen, I'm not trying to make, I'm not one of these brothers who's into like, hate the white man is the devil. That stuff is corny and passe. Because this is about systems. Yes, most of the organizers of the systems are white, most of them are male. But you'll find over time it's the same few families and individuals and groups and companies that have been doing it for about 200 years anyway, quite frankly. And what you will also find is that the thing that they have worked the hardest to destroy is anytime poor black folk and poor white folk come together to challenge the system. They can't have that happen. They killed Fred Hampton because of that. They shut down the Progressive Era because of that. They shut down the Bacon's Rebellion because of that. They can't let that happen. So my plea to revive Pan-Africanism is not out of the white man is the devil, we got to go, we got to get ready for whitey, he's coming for us. My plea to revive Pan-Africanism is to first create a collective sense of space where we as children of Africa can come together and understand that we got to put away our bullshit. And second of all, to reclaim our place as the vanguard of the challenge to the system. Like Dessalines, like Harriet Tubman, like Du Bois, like Malcolm, like Martin. We have been the vanguard of those who have sought justice since this onslaught started in 1492. So my desire to revive Pan-Africanism does not come out of some kind of sense of, cultural chauvinism or black power per se in the traditional kind of retrograde sense. But as a clarion call for us to realize that there is something arising that we must react to, and we must put the best of our minds and actions and economic plans together to find a way that empowers all of us, whether that be the African-American brother who needs that job, who just got out of slam, or the Haitian brother who just came up on the shores, or that Nigerian or the Guyanese or whatever brother and sister, and empower ourselves collectively, economically, Because the data is real. Black folk in America are suffering. They are poor, unjustifiably poor. I can recount numerous amounts of data about the black-white wealth gap and how bad it's gotten, about the minuscule amount of wealth that African Americans have. I can go on and on and on. But the question is, number one, the reason I don't do that is, frankly, none of us are surprised by those statistics as often as we hear it. Let's be honest. It doesn't. Are you shocked that black people are more poor than anyone else? No. The question is, what is the reaction that we're going to have to that reality in the times of this rising white reactionary nationalism? And I say, I'm not saying Pan-Africanism is the answer. What I'm saying it is a tool that can allow us to coalesce, address our internal problems, and put ourselves at the position as vanguards to provide the alternative to these models that are literally cannibalizing the majority of the planet. I say thank you very much.
Wow. Next we'll have Lowell, our final speaker of the hour.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
It's typical in certain aspects of African culture that you ask the permission of an elder to speak. Brother, you seem like you might be one with the most wisdom here, so I would ask for your permission to speak before I continue further. Okay, thanks. My name is Lowell Gelin. I'm from Brooklyn, New York. Both my parents are from Haiti. Somewhat of a community activist. I'm an entrepreneur. I have a business, an auto repair business. And one of the goals of the business is to bring African young brothers and sisters who have been incarcerated to teach them skills and knowledge so that they can remain confident in, one, first learning a skill, and two, being able to be employed by people who look like them, which will further increase their confidence. And because I myself am a Pan-African, I can instill values and information every now and then within them so that they become self-empowered through intellectualism, through history, and so forth. A few years ago, Denzel Washington made a movie called Antoine Fisher. And in the movie, Antoine Fisher was almost, you can say, his essence was almost disseminated because he couldn't identify who he was because he was taken away from his parents, his family. And it wasn't until he reconnected with his family that he began to have a oneness. And he was able to identify himself with who he is because he had a foundation. And one of the key things, in my view, to Pan-Africanism is for all of us to have a sense of self. I was in a meeting one time last year during something called Financial Literacy Month. It happens every April. So one of the things we discussed at the meeting was, well, what is it that black people can do to get together and have a great foundation to understand what we need to do with finance? I said, well, we just have to adopt the Haitian principle, the Haitian concept. He's like, what's that? So I explained to them a story. I was doing a service on a Haitian young lady's vehicle. Unfortunately, I don't speak or understand Creole, but I can claim Haiti. So we'll talk about that later.
Put him in the corner.
So Peter Rock. So I finished the whip, and we test drive the vehicle. A Haitian guy pulls up to me. He didn't ask me for money. He asked me $1 or nothing. He says, "Buy girl." No. First he says, "Why you saying?" I said, "Man, why you saying?" "Buy girl." I said, "No, I don't speak Creole. I speak to my client." So she spoke to him, and he says, "I have to drive to Kendall. Can you spread some money for me because I don't have my wallet with me?" I didn't think about it. Grab my wallet, put like $20 in it, gone. Didn't even think about it. So because the sister's Haitian, I'm Haitian, the brother's Haitian, it's common for us to understand because that's part of our culture. Now, a few years ago, a friend of mine who's Jamaican said, man, I wish I was Haitian. So what are you talking about? I just wish I was Haitian because y'all had like all y'all family. That's what we talking about. She says, well, me and a mutual friend of ours who's Haitian, they wanted to go to a concert. So they go to the concert. They said, we'll just listen to the music outside. I said, no, we don't get inside. That's what the Haitian sister was saying. I said, how we don't get inside? Don't worry about it. 15, 20 minutes, half hour later, she sees the Haitian guy. Speaks in Creole, boom, they in the concert. She said, yo, where you know the brother from? I don't know, I just met him. She said, what do you mean just met him? I just met him. She didn't believe it. They go inside, she said, yo, Sister hungry. She says, don't worry about it. A few minutes later, she sees some Haitian. Speaks in Creole, full plate of food for both of them, and drinks. She says, yo, where you know his mother from? I don't know, I just met him. She couldn't comprehend it. So, in Haitian history, what we went through was so tragic, we had no option but to unite. Because we understood who our ancestral enemy was and they wanted our destruction. So, we had no choice but to stick together at all times. Now, my parents didn't tell me, hey, make sure you stick to Haitians. But I saw that every single time my father went somewhere to buy something, it'd be a Haitian supermarket, a Haitian mechanic, a Haitian plumber, a Haitian contractor. I was like, Dad, how come every time we go somewhere, you don't speak like us? Speak like you and Mom. He would say, that's your people. So, subconsciously, he is implementing nationalism within me. Subconsciously, he's implementing in my brain to support your own people and to go with your people. Before I became an automotive technician, we try to get jobs done on the side. So he says, you go to the leadership, make sure you go to the back, you ask for the mechanic, make sure the mechanic is black. Makes me like, well, that makes sense, because that's our people. So I go to the back and be like, yo, son, you work on the side? Yeah. This is my number, I need some work. But I found that I would never do that with a Caucasian. And it's because they don't understand our struggle. They don't understand our need to get certain things done in a particular manner. Now, to me, that is Pan-Africanism. I am uniting with someone who looks like me. I don't care what his ethnicity is. I don't care what his so-called nation is. I don't care if he's Jamaican, Haitian, Bayesian. You look like me, we family. Unless you're suspect. That's a whole other story. So, I studied World War II. And in World War II, when America was going against Germany, when America gained some kind of leverage over the Germans were in prison, but they're in the mess hall. And in the mess hall, the Germans, white people, and the white Americans could eat the same mess hall, but they wouldn't let the black Americans who were fighting in World War II in the same mess hall. And the Germans is the enemy. So it conveys a message that even though they are out there to kill these white Germans, when they see black people, that's someone, even though they're fighting for us, don't deal with them. I'm known all over the place to say these words. Everything we do conveys a message. What message are European people conveying to us when they're saying that, listen, we fighting for our freedom or whatever with this World War II thing, but these black folk here, stay away from them. And we're supposed to be fighting amongst Americans. So there's a concept of white supremacy where even they understand the unification of what we call a Pan-Africanism, you call a Pan-Europeanism, because they have that on lock. Pan-Hispanicism or Pan-Latinism, the Latin community are together. Mexicans, Puerto Ricans, Colombians, Cubans, Dominicans, they know, they understand who they are, and they're always having some form of unity. But African people, it's like we have people who just want to be together. I hear it all the time. Don't deal with black American, I want you to have a Haitian woman. Listen, if they look like me, that's what I want. I understand culture, I understand cultural differences, but that's my people. Black people are my people. Now, if we take it upon ourselves to really get a sense of history, to get an idea of where we came from, we would have a better understanding to navigate ourselves through white supremacy. You know, we can kill white supremacy within a week, maybe even to a month. When Martin Luther King did the boycott, I think it lasted for about 18 months, 19 months, somewhere around there. There was so much of an economic drought in the European community, but they had no choice to acquiesce to our desires. The way to kill white supremacy through Pan-Africanism is to not support their establishments. That's one way, one important way. Because if you look at it, study any indigenous cultures, anywhere throughout the diaspora, Africa, the Caribbean, European people have two gods. It is money and the material gained through money, be it through land or whatever. African people, indigenous people, Caribbean people, we have various gods. We have our family, we have nature, we have animals. We appreciate the expression of life. That's what we worship, that's what we revere. But the European, their divinity is things that you can touch, things that are, you know, oh, I got this Rolls Royce, you know, I got this, I got that. And if we, I remember Muhammad Ali said it. He says, oh, the white guy was interviewing him, you're saying that you're about black people and, you know, you want to help poor people, but you drive around your Lincoln Continental. I said, yeah, because that's what y'all want to see. You see me like that, all of a sudden I have some kind of acknowledgement. Now you want to listen to what I'm saying. But if I'm just a regular black guy, I'm telling you, try to influence yourself and learn your history about your culture, you're not hearing anything I'm saying. Because I don't meet the standard of success or the standard of acknowledgement because I don't have these valuable things. I took one of the young boys, I mentor the incarcerated youth at the Juvenile Detention Center. So I took one of the boys who was released, took him to my shop. I had a Bentley in my shop at the time. He sees the Bentley, he looks at me different. Bentley, work on a Bentley. It's just an upgraded Volkswagen. So yeah, I can work on a Bentley. But it says it has a certain section where you work on Bentley, work on Rolls Royce. It's just, this is just materialistic things. But when people see that, it conveys a message. Everything we do conveys a message. What message are African people conveying? We make the conscious decision to be like, I'm not Haitian, so you know, you black American, I can't do it. You Jamaican, nah. I got a Jamaican dude who works right across the street from me. He tells you straight up, he only deals with white women, he's married to a white girl. He tells you straight up, I'm not black, I'm Jamaican. His own wife looks at him like he's crazy. Because she says, what do you do when you fill out an application? Do you fill out black? He says, I fill out other. Yet you listen, all the music you listen to is African music, black music. So the concept of white supremacy and how it has affected African people, we are so brainwashed and so distorted to the point that not only because there's a lot of black white supremacists walking around here, he himself is one of them. But at the same time, if you subscribe to some of the other concepts through religion, Christianity, Islam, you're practicing white supremacy. Because that has nothing to do with unifying African people to come together. Because religion will play a major role in separating you from the other. Oh, you Christian, so you know I can't. You accepting Jesus? No. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Yo, you have to accept Prophet Muhammad. I know cats like that. And this gets us absolutely nowhere. What are we going to do to say, I think Malcolm X said it, if your religion is not serving your purpose, leave it in the closet. It's serving absolutely no purpose but self-aggrandizement. Even to an extent, it could be in along with this discussion. What is the purpose of this discussion? What I learned in mentoring incarcerated youth, we could be sitting down and intellectualizing all day. Whose lives are we transforming? Can I take a young boy who has no skills and teach him a skill so he can learn how to do some things and learn to be a productive member of society? Simply by teaching him how to turn a wrench to do a brake job, to do an oil change. And that particular service can increase within him or her the confidence to do particular jobs. And that individual, be it he or she, can become a transformative individual in society. Talking, panel discussions, lectures, where does that get us? Children are dying in the streets. Black women probably the most underrated being on the planet. who is not just experiencing everything through white supremacy, but because she's a female, she's experiencing sexism to the largest rate. Because I have 4 out of every 5 black women are raped on a daily basis. Literally. So, how can we use the tool of Pan-Africanism, as the brother so eloquently stated, you know, to use this tool as a means to counteract white supremacy, to destroy the tools that are being used to minimize and prevent us from maximizing, rather, our infinite potentiality. Please think on this. Thank you.
At this time, we're going to open the floor to anybody that would like to speak.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Bamba. I'm from Senegal, West Africa. Thank you for having me. You're going to excuse my English because I'm from a French country.
Man, you good, bro. You good.
Thank you. So I'm very glad to be here, and it's a great coincidence. I was walking by, getting some email from Senegal, my country, dealing with Pan-africanism and having the government of my country in America to work with the diaspora. It's a coincidence, and everything happened for a reason. I believe in God. And, you know, in the history of mankind, it was always a Messiah. That's what I would say that. It is like we need a savior. We need a savior. In the time of the ancient Egyptian, who was African, by the way, when the people of Israel were persecuted by our people, the African, the Pharaoh people, because it cannot be through African history without link with the ancient Egypt. At that time, God sent Moses, is in the Bible as well in the Quran, and asked him to go free his people, persecuted by the ancient Egyptian, the Pharaoh. And that's how, with a long story, Moses came to Egypt and challenged the Pharaoh, and you know the end of the history, he freed his people by crossing the Red Sea and took them back home. In the history of Africa, in the diaspora, Toussaint Louverture Dessalines come and free his people. As well as in China, Mao Zedong come and free the Chinese. India, Gandhi, Mandela, South Africa. And in the history of Africa, it was a great and big struggle against colonialism. It was not easy for colonialism to take Africa. It's like you can raise 2 elephants, but raise 100,000 elephants, I don't think it's easy. It's the same thing about Africa and the European. They come in Africa, but we express a lot of fighting, a lot of story upon them, but they never mention it. And it was not easy to take over the continent unless they brought the big gun. Still, we fought, and at the end, in 1960s, it was a big African independence movement, 1958, like you mentioned it. Okay, all the African country went through independence request. It was not easy. In 1958, as a matter of fact, the General de Gaulle made a tour, a French president of the Second Republic or Third Republic, I think, Third Republic, come to Africa and make a proposal. You want to get your independence and stay with the French community, or you want to get your total independence? All African countries say yes, and except Guinea, the President Sékou Touré, you can Google it and see his response against General de Gaulle. He told him in the very famous phrase, we want our dignity, and it cannot be dignity without independence. We want our independence. We prefer liberty in poverty than slavery in riches, etc., etc. It was the same. Just to tell you that we went through that, and in Africa, people was not just in deep sleepness of ignorance, as most people can think. It's still things going on in Africa. And during your struggle, our struggle, because yours is ours. In Haiti, the struggle was followed by the African. They might do something, and I think they did something. Even against slavery, it was not just come and taking away and in the easy way. You can imagine, even when an eagle come and snatch a little chicken, what is the reaction of the mom? Of the mom of the chick?
Fight.
Fight and try to fight and get back the kid. It was the same thing during slavery too. African didn't want slavery. They fought against slavery. As well, they fought against colonialism. But did you aware of that? Do you know about that? Maybe some of you few knows. The same way I'm knowing, do you know much about Africa? Because I'm here. And I observe. I saw so many things. I'm in this country 25 years. And before I come, okay, I was officer in the army back home. I did university. I have a master in history and geography. I'm an anthropologist. I speak 8 languages. You see, and I think I'm an observer in the discursive way, in the Descartes way, to see and understand things. So I'm observing my people here, my brothers here, what they went through, what they're going through, what is their aspiration, what is the need. And I think is a situation now that God will to react. It has always Million Man March. As the brother said, was always million men this or million men that. We have a colloque, we have a reunion, meeting, bragging ceremonies for how many years? But what is the outcome? Is the outcome of all this action? This is a great question. I think it's time to have Million Men Act. Instead of Million Men March, Million Men Talk, it got to be Million Men Act. And it can a fish do much out of its ecosystem? Can the fish out of the ocean, can the fish do much out of the ocean? Do I say it right, ocean? Or sometimes they laugh around Africa where the ocean say ocean. I say ocean. As we say, they portray too is misunderstanding and miscommunication, and everybody underestimate each other. They see African from what they see in the TV here. They think we're still Tarzan, we're dealing with the elephant, we're dealing with the lion, we have them like this, we live in the hut, and things that make me laugh. The first time I saw a lion was here at Port Lauderdale. I was just like a tourist. I would get close to the elephant because I was like a New York boy in my country. I grew in the city. In the big city, as a matter of fact, it's so many big cities in Africa, like everywhere, because the world is global. So, but people don't have much knowledge about it. So things happen, and just to tell you that, as you say, people misunderstand about people because they don't learn, they don't know, they don't travel. And unfortunately, Americans don't travel. They're scared of the lion over there, of the tribe, maybe snatching them and cook them. So, even when it comes to Jesus, we all believe, I'm a Muslim, but we respect Jesus and believe about him. If he had to come back, many church would not accept him because of the way he dressed. Jesus will not drive a Mercedes Benz. He will not be in the suit.
Taking an Uber.
He will be in sandal. I'm a donkey. A donkey in the church?
And a black man.
Wow. Jesus in sandal with the things? Nah. You can't go dress it up. You see what I'm talking about how they... so, the perception. So, in the African and African American, the diaspora in general, we have to come together in a solution. The solution, you need an option. You're searching for a solution. You're searching for alternative. But in my understanding, in my experience, and from all I know in this country and things going on, because you did you bring the subject on the table in the intellectual approach, so interesting. But what we need is an option, alternative, action. And it cannot be without interact or unity or meeting or whatever you name it with Africa. It cannot be Pan-Africanism. You talk about Pan-Africanism, but it cannot be realized only in the diaspora. It would be a fish out of the ecosystem, out of its ecosystem, which is Africa. The ecosystem, the central dynamism of Black American, of the diaspora, of Latin, to make things happen of our world, to make it work, is a link with motherland, which is Africa. As a matter of fact, in the history of our people, of mankind, even the ancient Egyptian, they had all their strategic stuff in motherland, in the southern part of Egypt. It was motherland. They consider the ancient Egyptian, consider the African, Black African as their ancestors. And the Mediterranean and the Phoenician are their enemies. If you see all the strategic stuff, the military stuff, the gold, diamond, whatever they have valuable was in the Nubian part, motherland.
You can't be broke.
So, your background is very important, but some people have missed. They don't know much about Africa. They only know what they experience with the TV here and the media. Africa is far away from what most people understand, think about. Over there, people are they know what time it is. They really know what time it is. They went through struggling. And we handle the work of imperialism now, the work of people who want, while imperialism are the cat handle the snake. We make them come down. We're making them come down because we have a mind, we are opening mind during the time, 500 times of fighting, of learning from them. We went, Senegal, I know, we went to the best school in French, best universities, anything hidden now. We know how things work. And we're making things happen right now in Senegal. So, I don't want to be long, but now, because I spent time in America, and I know, as a matter of fact, when I did a delegation meeting the president of my country years ago, I told them, there was white folks, investor in infrastructure, agriculture, you name it. We meet the president and he asked me, we had some nice talk, and the president was really impressed from the speech I deliberate. And those people, they would handle the things and lead the discussion and the things going, the business. And I told them, once we land in Senegal, before, little story I tell you, before we fly to Senegal, they asked me, do you have a hotel? Can we stay in a place, a safe place? I say, can we stay, will you stay in my house? They say, your house? Well, no, do you have a hotel? I say, well, okay, 5-star hotel, okay, no problem. All right, I flew first. When they arrived, I greet them at the airport, and the look, it was different. I didn't dress like Tarzan and my apple, you know, and I was just like, the way they think things gotta be, and I dressed in European style, Italian food, this and that, my European perfume, hair stuff, pedicure, manicure. You know, so they was like, you know, coming to, because they couldn't believe the appearance of things. I had my SUV from America, my driver, wow. And they didn't pass through everywhere I go. I took them from the honorary salon with the motorcade from the presidency and all these things. And I took them to the hotel, and the city was like, wow, like the city of my country, Dakar, the capital, is not just like Miami. Oh yes. And they see Dakar, Senegal, Africa. I say, welcome to Africa. And we went to the hotel, and the next day I took them to my house. I have a mansion next to the ocean.
I didn't know you guys live like this.
So much for
to be modest, with all modesty, you know, my house is, you know, here is our privilege to live at the ocean. Over there is our land, our territory, our country. You see? It is yours too. That's why you express yourself economically, socially, unless when you go to Africa. The same pride I'm experiencing right now, I look at them straight eye to eye. And I know how to handle the situation, any of them. And I know how to deal with them economically. I'm an importer myself. I import things from my country. And I know how it works. The same way the Chinese bring stuff. The same way the European brings stuff here. Nothing is a privilege to me. Because I know how things work. I'm from Africa, from a country, I have a background, I'm come from a nation. I'm from a country now. And I know what time it is. And that's what I want you to because we all say, we all brother and sister. I don't deal about race, about colors.
Really?
It shouldn't be, because we've been created equal. Nobody is better than another. The best one is the one who have knowledge and fear God. The best one is the one who knows about himself, about his people, the need of himself, the need of people, the best for his people.